Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back.
Niamh spied the outline of Malabon Castle on the horizon and turned dour. True, no golden suns waved atop its towers, yet that did not mean those within supported her. Malabon belonged to House Obert, long in conflict with Vfxone, and with Niamh herself.
Behind their ramparts. Do you see them, Reynard?
Asked Niamh, shaking her head.
Countless ballistae, collecting dust, while war rages all around.
Perhaps the Oberts will lend us aid.
Reynard replied.
True, you've been at odds with them in the past, but perhaps now, faced with a common foe.
A common foe?
Snorted the Queen.
You mean Nilfgaard, to whom they opened their gates? Caldwell, whom they supported?
They supported me, Mother.
Willem said.
And I know they share my disappointment with General Epdahi's actions. When they see I now stand by your side, they might forget old wrongs.
The things I do for the good of my realm.
Niamh sighed.
So be it. Reynard, send a runner to the castle. Tell the Oberts their queen seeks a word.
Moments later, the castle's heavy iron gate creaked open. Niamh rode into the cobblestone courtyard, where Margravine Greta, head of the house, greeted her. Although greeted is perhaps not the right word, for Lady Greta granted her only a barely perceptible nod.
What can I help you with, Niamh?
The war, my dear. The one being fought outside the walls of your castle.
Greta smiled to herself, then intertwined her brittle, ring-covered fingers.
I'm afraid that's impossible.
It is a vassal's sacred duty to serve her liege, and
my liege is King Willem.
Greta calmly retorted. Hearing his name, Willem stepped forward.
I wish to add my name to my mother's entreaty,
said the prince.
We tried to pact with the Empire. We trusted General Epdahi's promises, and he broke them, one after the other.
Margravine Greta dropped her gaze. The Oberts had lost lands, their serfs had been deported. Under Nilfgaard's rule, they had lost no less than the other great families.
We can brook no further delay. We must strike, united with all our might. Only thus can we retain hope for a victory.
Mine is long lost.
The noblewoman replied in a whisper.
I watched from my tower as their troops marched past. An endless sea of black plate. But you are right, Your Majesty. At some point, one must say enough. Even if that is one's last word.
Willem grasped the Margravine's brittle hand and bowed.
Thank you. On behalf of myself, my mother, and all our land.
Niamh left Malabon Castle reinforced by the Oberts and reassured by Willem's actions. If earlier she had harbored doubts about forgiving her son his betrayal, now she was convinced she had done the right thing. Niamh's force reached Cavaldon, a small, run-down town.
The Black Lads, They've a strong garrison in place,
proclaimed her scouts upon returning from a foray.
and they stand prepared for a siege. Their stores overflow, and we've seen ballistas, scorpions.
Cavaldon can be taken,
Began Reynard hesitantly.
but not without losses. Considerable losses.
A retreat. Is that what you advise?
I fear the soldiers wouldn't take to such a course. They're eager, Your Grace. They've a fire in them. Order a retreat and you could devastate morale.
Our losses may be heavy,
Said Neve, drawing her sword.
but I'll make certain the vile invader suffers even more. Order the troops to prepare. We will attack.
Soon after, the Lyrians moved on Cavaldon, war drums rumbling in step to their march. Upon the walls, the Nilfgaardians stood poised to defend.
I won't leave a single city to these invader scum! For Lyria! For Rivia!
For the Queen! Have it the white of an eye from half a league away.
God save the Queen!
To the last!
We must bring down their walls! Crush them!
Watch your heads!
Yes.
March on, march on.
My, now that is some fancy weaponry. And it's still got that new war machine smell.
Erigor! Gloire en caserne!
Army's a waste of time for one like me.
Discipline, that is what you folk lack.
I'd hoped we could solve this some other way.
Erigor!
Gwal en Kazer! Discipline. That is what you folk lack.
We did it, Your Grace. The city is ours.
The Nilfgaardians had indeed prepared well, with grapples to repel hook ladders from the walls and long spears to rain down upon attackers far below. Meve managed on the fourth attempt to breach the defences, but did so scrambling over the corpses of her own men. The Queen was in the field tent when Reynard arrived with surprising news. To be heard over the groans of the wounded, he had to raise his voice.
Your Grace, a delegation of townsfolk. They seek an audience urgently.
Dozens of burghers stood before the tent. Between them and the Queen, a man knelt in shackles. His face was blooded as if he'd endured a vicious beating just moments before.
Who's this?
Our blacksmith, Todor.
Snarled a priestess in a frayed robe.
He betrayed you, Your Grace. Soon after the Nilfgaardians arrived, within hours in truth, he offered his labour and strength. They didn't even need to ask. Forged arms and armour for them, all for imperial gold.
Meve gripped the beaten man's beard, tugged upwards, and looked him in the eyes.
Did you forge the hooks and the tips for those spears?
I did, Your Grace.
It was fine work.
Growled the Queen.
Damned fine.
Show him mercy, milady!
Cried a withered old man in a flour-spattered apron.
When the black-clad bastards captured my son, they were eager to hang him. Todor spoke for him, saved his life.
He helped me too.
Hollered a woman in the crowd.
I were hungry. He shared what little he had.
The townsfolk began shouting over one another. Some told of the blacksmith's noble deeds. Others labelled him a traitor, deserving of a cruel and violent end. Meve turned back towards the field hospital, pondering the case, then spotted her soldiers' corpses laid out in rows. Had it not been for Todor, there might not have been so many.
Mother!
Willem's voice pierced the air, replete with tension.
My offences were far graver, yet you showed me compassion.
This man forged arms for the Nilfgaardians. 'Tis true.
Said Meve to the crowd.
Yet you, Baker, baked the bread they ate. And you, Potter, stained the cups from which they drank. Willingly or not, each of you aided the invader. Where does pursuing one's craft end and treason begin? I've no answer to that. So I shan't punish any for doing merely what's theirs to do.
Upon hearing the verdict, the Queen's troops stared in disbelief, then began to boil. As she walked back calmly to the tent, they jeered and hissed. At the last, it took Reynard to calm them down. Meve had saved Todor, but she was convinced she'd not see the blacksmith again. Come evening, he returned to the camp, with a wagon full of arms so new they shone.
If it weren't for you, Your Grace, they'd have torn me to bits with their bare hands.
He said, kneeling before her.
I thank you for speaking up for me. For my innocence, that is. I've a gift for you. A gift I knows you'll put to proper use.
Meve took a spear in hand, put it to her shoulder, and gazed down the shaft. The tip glowed red in the light of the setting sun.
Of that, my friend, you can be sure.
Okay, let's see what did we get. Set a unit power to 1. Now that's badass.
How could you, Your Majesty? He's crafted weapon for it blackclads. The very same what killed our lads. How could you, Your Majesty? How could you, Your Majesty? He's crafted weapon for it blackclads. The very same what killed our lads.
Freedom will cost us dearly. Dearly indeed. Freedom will cost us dearly. Dearly indeed. Freedom will cost us dearly. Dearly indeed.
Your Majesty, the hut's untouched. Ripe grain in the fields, 'tis hard to believe. I feared we'd have another Eddern here, with the blackclads setting fire to all.
I feared nothing of the sort. Nilfgaard's not stupid. Lands it aims to hold, it doesn't destroy. And Willem did bend the knee to the Emperor.
An army's a waste of time for one like me.
$152, $154.
You mad? Don't shake that! The chase is on! Tomorrow I'll drink with our forefathers!
Scrubbing duty again? Oh, gods.
Left, right, left, right.
Ballista, your command.
Oh, Lyrian lummoxes. Catch him! He's worth 20 florins! Used to be I hunted game. Men bring more coin.
This eyes will be reaping black-clad heads.
Again and again and again.
Obedience or the lash!
Discipline shall bring us victory!
I'm a monster.
Back in line! For you, pal! Anything! Move! Yeah! Laria! Infiltrate! Enarfian!
Hundred and 102, 103.
Again and again and again.
I'm coming, I'm coming.
That was not in the spell books. My spirit's willing and all, but these damn boots are killing me.
For the Queen! Thing about slings, they hide well.
As good as dead, that lot.
I'm a monster.
Hail cats out! Ah!
Catch!
$152, $154.
I never miss. Scheiß! In Tray!
An army's a waste of time for one like me.
Off to the front yet again.
Left, right, left, right.
Now, how did that incantation go?
One bolt's all I need.
Company! Forward march!
Give me a time. Ballista, your command.
God save the Queen! Quick and painful this'll be.
Broadhead now loomed before Meve and her force. Once famous for its glowing forges and clanking manufactories, the city now stood silent. Why, you might ask? Because Mahakam. Decades past, it had opened its gates to human merchants and dwarven arms, exquisitely crafted and not nearly as dear as those made by man. The caravans had simply stopped coming to Broadhead. When its black-clad garrison spotted the Lyrians approaching, they'd hastily fled, left the city's gates open wide. Yet, they did not leave empty-handed. Their convoy comprising at least a dozen wagons loaded ostensibly to the hilt.
With what might they have fled?
With something damn heavy,
replied Gascon, squinting his eyes.
Look at this. 2 horses to pull each wagon, and the wheels cut deep into the road.
What they've taken from my city,
began the Queen.
They've taken from me, and I will have it back. Follow me!
Meve spurred her horse and galloped off in pursuit of the fleeing caravan. When the Blackclads realized they had no hope of escape, they planted pikes and feet, bracing for the assault.
Stop! Whatever you carry belongs to me!
They gain ground! Dal Seifel!
Give me a time.
For Rivia!
Very gloire!
Watch your heads!
Nothing personal, I assure you.
Again and again and again. For my peace.
got sand aplenty.
Enough! I refuse to die for these scraps!
Meve personally, and none too gently, shackled the Nilfgaardian commander, a young nobleman with a precisely trimmed moustache. Like many noble Imperials, he spoke fluent common.
The wagons. What's in them, Captain?
Scrap, Your Majesty.
The Imperial promptly replied. Noting the Queen's confusion, he elaborated.
To be melted down and recast into arrowheads and spear tips. Our engineers originally planned to use the foundries in Broadhead, yet these proved too primitive. We were ordered to remove the scrap, take it elsewhere.
Any pride from the victory vanished in an instant, and Meve swelled with anger, but also with shame. The shame came from realizing that to the invader her realm was naught more than a weak, underdeveloped backwater. Meve slammed the chest she'd opened shut.
Blast it! Back to Broadhead. Let's ride.
Crumbling walls, shattered windows, rotted wood. Broadhead was bleak, a dull shadow of its former self. As the Lyrians entered, the somber townsfolk glared at the arrivals and uttered not a word. That is, until they saw Willem and began to hiss and growl. Meve resolved to address the crowd.
Folk of Broadhead, you're free at last. The Nilfgaardian occupation is done.
Aye, and a new one starts now.
Are you madman? Don't you recognize our banners? The Lyrian army stands before you.
Oh, I recognise banners. Served neath them as a sergeant 15 long years. And then I came back to my hometown. Know what I found? Hardship and squalor, your grace. All had gone to shite. On account of damn dwarves. Been flooding Rivia with their metal goods for years now. Us smiths don't so much as light their pipes in their foundries no more. You call yourselves the Lyrian army. Colours and banners confirm it. Well, what about your arms? Weren't forged in us fires, but in Mahakams. By us worst foes. Hell, I even see some at knobheads in your ranks. And right behind, Prince Willem, who bent a knee to blackclads not long past. So what freedom's it you're giving us, your grace? Freedom to beg in common, not in Nilfgaard's mongrel tongue?
Beg? What are you on about, man?
There's no levy on goods from Mahakam. But without it, us workshops don't stand a chance. And ye, your grace, you wear their armour, bear their arms, and bring bearded bastards to our doorstep.
The dwarves are faithful allies. They help us because...
'Cause they've got something to gain. Simple as that.
Enough. Silence. Consider yourself lucky you've a merciful queen. I'd have had your head off by now. Move along.
Before Meve could leave the market square, Barnabas politely interjected.
Frankly speaking, there's a bit of truth to what the man says.
I'm perfectly aware of that. But what do you want?
I don't mean to toot my own horn, but perhaps I might be of some help?
Do tell how. I'm all ears.
Everything your folk make here, the dwarves of Mahakam make twice as fast and twice as well. You must find a so-called niche, an innovation. And it just so happens innovations
are your speciality.
At the risk of being immodest, exactly. Besides, it might serve the cause of peace to show the folk here, non-humans, are not all bad, that they can help, not just steal human jobs and piss in their milk.
I'll consider it, Barnabas. I shall think and let you know.
The time came to leave Broadhead, so Meve summoned her advisors, eager to hear their counsel. They put forth ideas, many of merit, but the Queen would decide the city's future. After careful deliberation, the Queen approved Barnabas's proposal. He would manage the city's ailing industry and seek to restore it to health.
Barnabas, just please, do your best not to blow it all up.
Don't you worry, Your Grace. The only boom in this town's future is that of the economic sort.
At first, the Rivian townsfolk were skeptical of the Queen's decision, but Barnabas's schemes bore immediate fruit. Soon, the foundries and manufactories were bustling with life. Before long, Meve herself received new goods produced there.
Now, I'm no ally of gnomes or any freaks, but this Barnabas bloke, he's not a bad apple. Now, I'm no ally of... Now, I'm no ally of gnomes or any freaks, but this Barnabas bloke, he's not a bad apple.
The wind howls like a ghastly apparition.
There's a time to reap, a time to sow.
You can pay the toll in one of two ways. In silver or in blood.
Ah!
There's been a mistake. I'm no mage. The mist's gonna pass me those lovely earrings, or do I tear 'em off myself?
This artist will be reaping black-clad heads.
Ha!
Greetings. What is it?
Of course I'll manage. I trained a full week.
Pointy end upwards, right?
My spirit's willing and how, but these damn boots are killing me.
The mist's gonna pass me those lovely earrings, or do I tear 'em off myself?
If anyone asks, you've not seen me. There's been a mistake. I'm no mage.
Not going into the fray already, are we?
When Meve saw Reynard's usually stoic visage rent by a half-moon grin, she knew he brought particularly good news.
Your Grace, our toil has borne fruit. The liberated towns of Rivia have hired an outfit of mercenaries conveyed to your command, along with wishes for a speedy victory.
Meve cast an eye over the long column of hired soldiers, taking in their top-notch arms and battle-hardened faces. Her gaze lingered longer on their banners, surprised to see some bearing the Caldwell crest, suggesting Dragomir had proven worthy of the trust she had extended him.
With support like this to bolster our ranks, our way grows easier,
said the Queen with a smile.
Send the townsmen a letter. Say their queen thanks them for their devotion to the realm, and when the time comes, she shall reward them fittingly.
Okay, let's see, what did we get?
Rivia Castle. Seems our journey nears its end.
That end could yet prove tragic. We've daunting tasks ahead. Pride. It's all I ever felt pondering those walls. Yet now, to behold them from below, I truly do wish we hadn't built them so tall.
Okay, so we've completed 9 quests, 6 puzzles and 9 battles. We have 6 out of 6 golden chests, so let's do this.
The castle of Rivia now loomed before the Lyrians. Water surrounded it on 3 sides, and dual defensive walls studded with podgy turrets completed its perimeter. It was famously difficult to take, and had changed hands only once, a few months before, when traitors opened its gates to the Nilfgaardians. Foreign banners waved upon the walls. The Golden Sun and General Epdahi's crest on Rivia's walls, the walls of home. There was somber silence among the troops, the glee and pride of many triumphs suddenly gone. For each knew if the Queen ordered an assault, most would lie dead by sunrise.
Your Majesty,
began Reynard in a reassuring tone.
We needn't strike quickly. We've time on our side. To prepare would be wise. 2 months, I wager. Perfectly enough. We stop supplies from getting through. They'll capitulate, I've little doubt. Or at worst, be too weak to defend the fortress.
Reynard's reasoning was sound. There was no need for urgency. Meve had the upper hand for the first time in this war.
Let Epdahi wait,
said Meve, her eyes trained on the citadel.
Let him watch from those walls as we reclaim our realm, village by village, town by town. Follow me!
Meve turned her back to the castle, eager to take the fight elsewhere.
Okay, so at this point, I'm actually gonna save.
Meve had returned to the foot of Rivia Castle. Tense and silent, her troops awaited her command.
These invaders have grown fond of Rivia Castle,
said Meve.
So let them stay and rot. Reynard, erect road barricades and guard posts between city and citadel. Gascon, seize all boats, barges, anything that floats. Stop anything from entering from the lake. Move!
Soon, Rivia Castle stood isolated from the world outside its walls. All roads leading to it were blocked, impassable. Fishing boats, a cordon, embraced the fortress on Loch Escalot. The lanterns on their bows glowed like fireflies in summer. Then, an emissary from the castle brought a message for the Queen. General Epdahi wished to meet, face to face, and half the way between the citadel and the Lyrian camp.
Well, well, some general,
smirked Gascon.
We've barely snapped the trap shut, yet he's already shaking in his knickers.
Be on your guard, Mother,
said Willem.
Epdahi I know better than anyone here. The man always has a trick up his sleeve.
We've a few of our own. Sleeves and tricks. But I thank you for the warning and concern.
Meve proceeded to the meeting point without delay. A lone rider soon appeared on the horizon. He came adorned in rich black robes, their golden trim shimmering in stray sunbeams. She'd seen him before, in Edirn, through the megascope.
You came as I requested. Good. Very good.
I couldn't possibly refuse such a courteous invitation, especially as compared to your previous missive. The art of diplomacy, you've improved your grasp.
Your realm fell quickly. I expended little strength in seizing it. This left me much time to study. But please, we must set aside this bitterness. I'd like to formally welcome you to Rivia, dear Queen.
I see you've readily adopted the role of gracious host in my home.
In point of fact, I've grown fond of the castle. Fortifications impressive, atypical of the north. Not so your brave soldiers, whom we shall pick off like ducks. I pity them, in fact.
Dry your eyes, General. Rest easy. I've no plans for a quick assault. I shall first wait to hear the rumbling in your bellies.
Remarkable. You truly believe you can win this war? I've not been in the north long, but have discovered something all the same. You don't grasp complex ideas. You know Nilfgaard is large, but your minds don't fathom its enormity. You see, for every army you defeat, another will come to take its place. One larger and better equipped than the one before. Even now, as we so pleasantly chat, Army Group East is en route to lift your siege. Due to arrive tomorrow. And do you know what will happen when they do? They will crush you against your own castle's walls, like the maddening flea you are.
A charming analogy, but get to the point. Why'd you ask for this meeting?
For this very reason. I wish to see you with my own eyes.
They did not see enough in Edirn? Are you such an admirer of feminine beauty?
You flatter yourself. No, in you, I see an animal. Game. Prey. And as the hunt's due to start soon, I needed a more detailed image of the beast I'll be looking for.
You? On a hunt? Those delicate hands have never held spear or bow. Nout sharper than a letter opener, I wager. Tomorrow you will not be on a hunt. Tomorrow you will be at war. You best pray to all your gods you don't find me.
Without awaiting a response from General Ep Dahi, Neve pivoted and turned toward camp. Her pace was quick, despite a heavy heart.
The good book states the just always prevail, with no cause for despair. The Blackclads shall shed their shields and flee for the first cock crows. Nilfgaard fights by the sword, thus it shall fall by the sword. The Blackclads shall shed their shield. The Blackclads shall shed their shields.
As a rule, human fortifications aren't worth a pound of shield marshite. But this fort sure turned out all right for you. Thou in hell. Got no chance against these walls. Tricks to stay positive, isn't it, Your Majesty? Tricks to stay positive, isn't it, Your Majesty?
Gonna be one hell of a night! Ah! 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 Don't you dare sound the retreat, got it? My axe craves blood, Nilfgaardian blood! Gonna be one hell of a night! Ah! Ah!
Let us hope this proves the war to end all wars. Always darkest before the dawn. Always darkest. Many will die today. Too many. Many will die today. Too many.
Meave's closest advisors already awaited her in the command tent. In a few brief words, the Queen gave a report of the meeting, only with great effort masking the quavering in her voice.
An army, an immense one, approaches from the west. If we meet in open battle, we stand not a chance.
Damn it! Why did no one warn me?
Our scouts were discovered, captured. It must be that.
Yes, it didn't seem right. Our way so clear, so untroubled.
We must flee? Not at all heroic, I admit, but sure as hell better than being trampled into the dirt.
Easily said, but for a problem. Our force is chiefly infantry. The army that draws near includes cavalry, several regiments. We cannot hope to escape them. We cannot hope to hide.
What do you advise?
We've two options. Capitulate,
Out of the question.
or take the castle, tonight.
Suppose for a moment it's possible. Tell me how and at what cost. Are we to scale a mountain of comrades' corpses to reach the top of the wall? I know we're at war and many die, but to command our troops to take that citadel is to condemn them to certain death.
Rivia's walls are unassailable, I fully agree. But there's more than one way to take any fort, and this fort too.
I think I like where this is going.
I know this citadel like no one else. I know its one potential weakness. The boat landing.
Wait, that narrowest of piers between the two turrets? The one where the fishermen would land?
The same. As I'm sure you recall, Your Grace, at that narrow pier's end stands a narrow door leading straight into the fortress. A small detachment could approach unnoticed, overwhelm any sentries, and get inside.
What then?
They would need to pass through the fort to the winch in the guardhouse, open the gate for the rest of the force.
That is suicide.
Perhaps, but as options go, we have it alone.
And I'm to choose to send folk there. Most certainly to die.
You needn't choose anyone, for I volunteer, and will take only those willing to do the very same.
Bloody wretched plan.
And you've a better one, do you?
Of course. I'll go instead.
Beg your pardon? I don't.
Face it, Reynard, you couldn't sneak past a corpse. Sound like a bloody tambourine in that armour. Apart from which, you're Maeve's right hand. So you ought to be by her side when the fighting starts.
Okay, so this time I'm gonna choose Gascon, and later I'm gonna reload and choose Reynard.
Firstly, Reynard, I'm grateful. Well done, my friend.
Thank you, Your Grace.
But truth be told, I did indeed hear you walking to the tent from the other side of camp. And yes, you know Rivia Castle better than anyone else, but the assault must transpire silently. Gascon will lead the force.
Understood, Your Grace.
Cheers, Maeve. I'll try not to disappoint.
You won't, I'm sure. God speed you on your way, and please, try your damnedest not to die.
Gaston hand-picked his men, those most adept with daggers, not swords. Noiselessly, they glided through the dark toward the castle, the light of its lanterns blurred by the evening mist. Maeve watched anxiously as the boats glided away, her heart pounding in her ears. All depended on this mission. The fate of her realms, perhaps all the North, the lives of her troops, and her own. Now there was naught she could do but wait.
Good luck,
she whispered, gazing at the fortress walls, cloaked by the dark that seemed to surround all now.
Quick and painful this'll be.
Yeah!
Ah! You see to the winch! We'll hold them off!
The Lyrians prepared for battle, their silence absolute, in darkness, illuminated only by the pale light of the moon. Maeve was restless. She paced nervously in a circular pattern, awaiting the signal they'd agreed upon.
Blast, it's taking long. Much, much too long.
Finally, a torch's faint glow appeared atop the towering walls. It disappeared, then glowed again, and one more time around. Meve leapt in the air, and as she did so, barely stifled a cry of utter joy.
They made it. It worked. Willem, it's time. Sound the horns. Attack!
Moments later, Lyrians in the hundreds burst from the trees. The Nilfgaardian defenders loaded their catapults and ballistae. They did so slowly, convinced the castle walls remained impenetrable. Then they heard chains, grinding and clinking, and the sound sent shivers down their spines. Bewildered, they watched the main gate rise as the attacking force rushed forth. General Epdahi dispatched an elite unit to take back the winch at once. Yet he saw this was in vain and all was lost when Meve rode into the castle courtyard. Meve had begun the day known as a great warrior. Yet by night's end, legend was the cloak she wore. Her shield stopped powerful blow after blow as her blade found gaps in her foe's black armor. At first, Nilfgaardians scoured the fray in search of the Queen, hoping to prove great heroes. Soon, she was their chief scourge, and they began to flee before her blade that sung their death.
Retreat! Retreat!
What was this extraordinary vigor that surged through Meve? Naturally, she wished to liberate her castle and realm, drive off the invaders, defeat the arrogant General Epdahi. But in that moment, above all else, she longed to fight her way through to the guardhouse and bring Gascon's party relief.
Follow me! Move! Move!
As she stepped through the door into the tower, the silence told Meve she'd arrived too late. Gascon's men lay slaughtered in pools of their own blood. The man himself slumped over the winch's crank. 3 arrows in his chest rose and fell with his each ragged breath. Meve tore off her cloak and pressed it against him, desperate to stem the bleeding.
Help's on the way. Don't you even think of dying.
You know...
wheezed Gascon, a slight smirk on his lips.
I always enjoyed doing things just to spite you.
Medics on the stairs in the guardhouse, steps away, heard a long, blood-curdling wail. They entered the room to find the Queen kneeling, pounding the wall with her fists, her eyes flooded with tears. Gascon lay motionless beside her, covered by her cloak. The Queen rose, her fists clenched, her shoulders rigid, her knuckles white. Her face betrayed no sorrow, no despair, just rage, hot as a forge, immeasurable.
Now's not the time to mourn.
Seethed Meve, struggling to stay calm.
Now's the time for war, for slaughter, revenge. With victory today, we'll recover our home, return to our kin and set our blades aside at last. Yet until victory is ours, they must drink. Drink greedily of Nilfgaardian blood!
The Lyrians were at the brink, near their breaking point. They'd followed Meve for thousands of miles, over snow-clad peaks, through forbidding swamps. They'd fought, survived countless battles at her side. And though their gazes were now weary, she knew they'd follow her into fire.
Your Grace, the Blackclads. They've holed themselves up in the upper keep. We went to breach the wall, alas to no avail.
Meve nodded, twirled her sword, then leapt upon a mount. Her eyes spoke pure determination.
So we'll bloody well try again. This is the end, Ebdahi. Do you hear me? I shall stick your head on a pike!
I'm coming, I'm coming.
I must thank you. Your fortress has superbly solid walls.
Mahjong.
My spirit's willing and how, but these damn boots are killing me. Eddard Fane!
Give me a time.
Left, right, left, right.
For the Queen!
Enough! I do not need to hear this. Kill her! Archers, let it be night. Obscure the sun with arrows.
You mad? Don't shake that!
I fear not, the faith guides me.
Surrounded by fools!
Blood washes away all shame!
Her Majesty is exceptional.
God save the Queen!
Commissar will hear.
Yeah, yeah!
Scheiß! In! Zwei!
To the last!
Off to the front yet again.
Quiet, or the Commissar will hear.
Where is he? Tell me where!
Nilfgaard had the upper hand, yet the black-clad spirits had suffered. They now made more use of shields than of swords. When Meve finally broke through their line, they raised their arms in surrender. Rivia Castle had fallen. It was hers once more.
Trocker! Nein to Wien!
Meve showed her prisoners of war mercy, knowing full well they'd only followed orders. Death would be the fate of only Ardal ep Dahi, the one Nilfgaardian who'd issued those commands. Alas, the general had disappeared. A prisoner revealed ep Dahi had fled as soon as the Lyrians had surged towards the upper keep. He had glided down to the lower castle in a wicker basket for transporting food. Curled up beneath potato skins and other scraps, he'd scurried away not unlike a common maggot. Meve cursed her luck and leaned back against a merlin. Dawn was yet a few hours off, but the horizon had already begun to glow blood red. The Nilfgaardian reserves now drew near, too late to prevent the castle's fall.
I'll get him,
muttered the queen, more to herself than anyone else.
I swear on all that's sacred I'll catch the bastard. But now we've a pressing matter to see to. Preparing the defense.
That night the war turned, with the battle for Rivia Castle as its fulcrum. Meve's great victory, not only retaking the stronghold in a single evening, but also fending off a further invading army, proved the Nilfgaardian Colossus had feet of clay. The armies of the north had united and now seemed to be on the attack everywhere. Imperial forces, while still far more numerous, lay stretched over thousands of miles. Their position was untenable, and Nilfgaard's commanders knew this. In a decisive battle, they yet stood a chance, so they gave said battle, and suffered a resounding defeat. Just a few months on from that memorable night in Rivia, the Imperial army was in utter disarray. Aldersburg, the fortress, remained a last point of resistance. General ep Dahi and what had survived of Army Group East had dug in there. This place, where Nilfgaard had triumphed grandly in the war's early days, would now bear witness to its impending defeat. It seems history, after all, has a sense of justice, or humor, or both. Though Meve had already reclaimed her realm, she refused to retire her sword just yet. For King Demavend had requested her aid in purging Edirn of the invader. How could she refuse? She owed the king a favor, firstly. Yet she also had a burning desire to settle the score with ep Dahi.
Demavend's envoy and I spoke, Your Majesty. The king has Aldersburg surrounded. He awaits and won't begin the assault till you arrive.
Good. I truly hate to miss it. Tell the troops to prepare. Gear and ire.
Of course, Your Grace.
Yes? Is there something else?
Pardon my boldness, Your Grace, but I can't help but be concerned. You don't sleep. You have the air of illness about you.
I think back to that night in Rivia often, to Gascon's death. Perhaps I made a mistake. Perhaps he didn't have to die.
He didn't, Your Majesty. He needn't have been there at all. I'm a soldier. I swore to serve you. Gascon, not so. He might have left at any time. Guilt, pity trouble you, Your Grace, I know. But he signed on willingly and knew exactly what for. Gascon gave his life, for he thought you worthy of it. There's no greater proof of friendship, no greater gift one can give. Accept it, Your Grace, and remember him with gratitude, not sorrow.
You're right. There is no greater gift. But I didn't ask for it. I don't want it. How many others have given their lives for me? Thousands? Tens of thousands? The burden, can you even fathom it? I'm tired, Reynard. Just bloody tired. We've talked enough. We must march on to Aldersburg.
Your Grace, if I may. Some of our comrades in arms would like a word with you. The war nears its end. Paths are likely to diverge.
I see. Thank you. I shall stop by the mess tent later.
And we will continue this in the next episode, so if you liked this one, give it a like, dislike if you think it sucked, and see you next time. Thank you.